Hello, everyone. I am your hostess, Val Massey, the head of community at Consortium 9. We're continuing our Meet the Team series today with Leo Antelyes, which I think is one of the coolest names ever. Like, you sound like that should be one of the lead characters in 300. Like, you'd be in there.
Thank you.
The sword and the shield. I mean, that's a badass name. So,
thank you.
Congratulations on that. Well done.
Thank you.
Even though you had nothing to do with it. Leo is our Senior Web Engineer. Is that Web3 Engineer? Is that right? What's the title?
Senior Web3 Engineer.
Okay. All right. So he's part of the team, obviously building some things for Nor. And today we're going to get to know a little bit more about him and what he does on the team and how he got here. So let's start with where you were born. Where were you born?
I was born in a town in upstate New York called Poughkeepsie. It's about, so if you go to Manhattan and then drive north, like around 3 hours, you'll end up kind of where I was born.
See, I live in Texas, so you go 3 hours and you're like, you're not even to Dallas yet. So it's funny to me when people on the East Coast, like, you could go, and the amount of time it would take for me to get from Austin to Dallas, you can go across like half of the East Coast. It's amazing.
Pretty much. You can go through like 3 or 4 states.
So you grew up there, but you live in San Francisco now. So did you move around a lot, or what brought you to San Francisco, and how long have you been there?
Sure. So I actually went to school also in upstate New York, a little farther north though, like near the Albany area. And then when I graduated college, I had a job offer for a company based out in San Diego. And so I took that, had an amazing road trip across the country to get there. And then I worked there for a couple years. And then that's when I made the move to San Francisco. But I'm an avid traveler. So I've lived in like many different countries. San Francisco is more just kind of like my home base. So I spend most of the year here.
Where's your favorite place that you've ever lived?
That's a pretty tough one. I'd have to say it's tied between the Netherlands and Colombia for very different reasons. For Colombia, I love the nature. I'm a really, really big hiker, and being just surrounded by jungle is absolutely incredible, being able to escape whenever you want. And then in the Netherlands, it was the people. I find I get along really, really well with their culture and everyone that was there.
See, my first thought was stroopwafels, cocaine. So that's where my mind is. So let's talk about you going to college. Where did you go to college? And when you got there, like, did you already know before you started college what your end goal was and the degree that you wanted? And kind of just talk about what degree you have.
Yeah, so the college I went to, the program I kind of applied for was very, very competitive. So I kind of had to know that I wanted to do it and to declare my major kind of on the application. It was Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and my degree is in game simulations, arts and sciences, which is kind of a base degree based around game design, and then you can kind of specialize in a different area if you want. For example, there's computer science. There's visual arts, like 3D modeling, 2D design, that kind of stuff. There's management, like project management. And then the last one, I think, was audio and kind of sound design. And so my concentration was computer science.
And you knew that that's what you wanted.
No, I knew that's what I wanted to do in my junior year of high school, actually.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's never too early to start thinking about that. I've known too many people that finish high school and they start college and are like, okay, now what? Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I'm here.
It's totally okay. It's awesome. Totally okay not to know what you want to do either. I mean, there's so much to learn and there's so much to be exposed to throughout college in terms of like different studies and different ways of doing things. So don't feel like you have to know exactly what you want to do.
But at least have like some idea, right? I guess not, because with those basic classes, you have to take them no matter what degree you're going for in college.
Hmm.
You're
Well, I mean,
still
yeah,
going to
like
have to take the history classes. You still have to take a science.
the
We
first
had
two
to
years of
take
college
a
are.
physical. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 I was just going to say that the first 2 years of college are very, very kind of general classes. I mean, if sure, it's
They
helpful
really
to
are.
know
Yeah.
like to know if you want like do you want to be some sort of engineer. That's good to know, but don't say like I want to be an aerospace engineer or I want to be a computer scientist. Like the specific like section of engineering, you don't really have to know exactly which one when you go.
I've worked with two guys in the game industry who had PhDs in physics,
Hmm.
and nothing with their jobs in the game industry had anything to do with physics. And that always amazed me, like that they would go take all those classes and then not use it. So
Hmm.
kudos to you for saying, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to get there. All right, so let's talk about some of your first projects. You said that you got a job out in San Diego. What was that, and what were some other things that
Hmm.
you've worked on?
So what's funny is actually my first two jobs, three jobs actually had nothing to do with games. When I first graduated college, I worked for a company called Viasat, and they basically do a lot of satellite communication. Like they do the satellite internet on JetBlue and American Airlines as well. But then they also do a lot of like satcom stuff for the military. And so my specific project there was working on a dashboard that various like clients we had that were like militaries in NATO that they used to kind of configure their satellite communication networks remotely. So I kind of worked on the user interface that they used to do that.
Did you
Um,
like that? Did you like doing that?
I love the work. I love the people I work with. The only thing that was not really ideal for me was the fact that it was a government contractor, which means that it comes with a lot of bureaucracy and like the pace of the development was very slow. Um, and I kind of like I'm young, like I want to like push forward. I want to build a lot of stuff, and so that's what kind of triggered me to move up north to the Bay to kind of bounce around in the whole startup ecosystem.
I like San
And
Diego and I like San
mhm.
Francisco, but San Francisco's the more fun of the two for me. Anyway, so yeah, good choice there. So
Definitely.
what
And
about
then
your next project after that?
then I moved. It was interesting. So the company I worked, Viasat is huge. They have like 7,000 engineers across the country. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I moved directly into working at a startup that was four people in someone's living room, which is like a big 180 in terms of scale. Um, and what we did there is we worked on a cool platform or an idea that they had where basically it would democratize set lists for kind of live shows to the fans. So the fans had like could vote and have some sort of say, and then what the favorite bands would play live. Um, and that didn't really work out. Most startups don't. But then after that, that's when I first got my start into crypto. Because a couple of roommates I had worked at this company that was kind of in this cross section of cybersecurity and crypto. They were one of the like first auditors in the space, and they needed a developer. So I talked to them, talked to the company. It was a really good fit. It was interesting work, so I joined them, and that was kind of my way into crypto. And I worked there for about 3 years, doing everything from internal tools that our auditors would use to help review code and share notes with each other, and collaborate, all the way to like I worked on an app for Samsung phones that like integrated with their blockchain key store. So it was kind of a way to invest money in DeFi using like an insurance protocol that we were developing. So it kind of like wrapped all that together into a nice application that would integrate with Samsung's hardware. Um, and there were a couple other things that I worked for QuantStamp that they did for other clients and also internally. A lot of different things. Yeah.
Now, did you already know about crypto stuff before you started that?
I knew nothing beyond that it was getting a lot of hype and the technology was pretty cool. But I honestly, at that point, I wasn't really paying too much attention. But after I got into QuantStamp and worked with them, that's when I was kind of like, whoa, there's a lot here. It's really, really cool. This is where I want to work.
And then what eventually brought you to C9?
Mm-hmm.
How did you
So
make that
transition? I stayed at QuantStamp for 3 years. I had an absolutely amazing time. I kind of realized that I wanted to come full circle and kind of come back to my passions regarding games. And so I took some time off. I worked on some personal projects, and then like it was really serendipitous. Like one of my friends connected me to C9, saying like, hey, there's this really cool company in the space. They're also dealing with games. They're looking for a Rockstar engineer. Do you want to talk to them? Of course, I said yes. And then I talked to you guys, and it was just like an instant match, both in terms of like what I wanted to do, what I wanted to work on, and who I want to work with as well.
What exactly is it that you do? Like, what's a typical day or a typical week like for you?
So right now I'm doing a lot of exploring and prototyping. So basically using various technologies, experimenting with different chains, trying to kind of implement things that are described in the white paper, seeing the best way to do things technically, and a lot of collaboration with our other Web3 engineer.
And when you're not working on those precious moments that you have that are just for you,
mm-hmm.
You know, how do you spend that time? I know that you're really into physical fitness and you take some kind of class every week and you like hiking. Do you have any good hiking stories? Like, have you had any near misses, or have you rescued a falling baby bear from a cliff or anything like that?
I don't have anything that exciting, but I have some. I've had the amazing opportunity to go on some absolutely incredible hikes. I'm the crazy person in my friend group that tries to organize like 10, 20-mile hikes on the weekends and tries to get everyone to come with me. Like climbing Cloud's Rest in Yosemite, going on very, very long adventures there. One of my favorite places to hike recently has been the North Bay. So basically, like if you go across the Golden Gate Bridge, there's some absolutely gorgeous nature out there.
And it's cliffy. It's very cliffy out there. I've seen it.
And to speak to the fitness, I'm a super fitness junkie. I do take classes, like I take yoga classes, I take weightlifting classes, cardio classes. I absolutely love kind of getting my heart rate up and feeling that kind of like that rush.
Well, if you're going to hike 12 miles, you kind of need to.
Mm-hmm.
I highly encourage you. I used to work for a company that was based in Iceland, so I spent a lot of time in Iceland. And if you like that kind of stuff, that getting out there and climbing around, Iceland is a great place to do it. And I will tell you, they will let you die in Iceland. I went to this place, it translates to the Golden Falls, Gullfoss. It's this huge waterfall. And the first time I went, it was all iced over, and there's no guardrails. You know, in America, we're just like put everybody in a bubble. Okay, here, we have to protect you from yourself. In Iceland, they don't. So I'm going down, coming down these stairs and going down to look at where the waterfall is. And it's just there. And there is a sign, or at least somebody told me, that says, do not look in it, because it kind of hypnotizes you and you'll just tumble in. So I'm scooting along, just sliding on this ice. And finally I realize, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm going to fall in. I'm just going to be another stupid American that had no business out here, just sliding around on this ice. So I turned around and went back, and I finally got closer to that waterfall when I went back in the spring, and it was cleared out. But absolutely gorgeous there. The lava fields and all the, hiking that you can do and climbing mountains and seeing volcanoes. Definitely put that on your bucket list. What are some other places where you haven't been, but you want to go?
I really want to explore more kind of jungles. I'm actually going to Southeast Asia this winter, so I'm really excited to go explore the nature and islands out there. Um, Besides that, Iceland is definitely very, very high on my list. And I also want to spend some more time in South America and explore there because I think I've only been to Colombia.
Uh, what did little Leo want to be when he grew up? I'm always fascinated. I ask everybody. I ask my doctors that question. I asked a vascular surgeon, like, what did you want to be when you grew up? And if you weren't doing what you do, what would you be? And he said, I guess I would be a plumber, which I guess is
Hmm.
like the blue collar equivalent of a vascular surgeon. So what did you want to be when you were little? Do you
I
remember?
was I was obsessed with ambulances and EMTs, and I really wanted to be someone that the person that rides in the back of the ambulance taking care of people.
And how did that transition to, I'm going to be a Web3 engineer?
I don't know. I mean that was when I was little Leo. I mean like under 10 years old, and then after I got to be kind of older, like to be a teenager, that's when I was exposed more and more to technologies like the internet. Um, that's when I like was got into like building my own computers, and then I think that just took over. I was just so fascinated with that stuff. Um,
Were you a gamer that became interested in building computers, or were you interested in building computers and then got into playing games?
that's a good question. I think it's they both kind of happened at the same time. I mean, my introduction to gaming was all console based. I think my first console was an Xbox, um, and then kind of like I got interested in the technology of the Xbox, but you can't obviously do too much with upgrading and swapping things out with that. So then I decided to build my own computer for the first time. I think I was 15 or 16, um, and then I was like, holy crap, this is really really cool too. Um, and started learning more and more about that.
What are some of your favorite games, console and or PC?
Are we talking like all time or just recently?
Whatever comes to mind. It doesn't have to be
Um,
more recent, but recent games are good too.
So I was not too recently, maybe a year or two ago, introduced to the genre of roguelike games, um, and I have been absolutely obsessed with Returnal lately, the PS5 game. Um, that's probably my obsession right now.
Do you remember the first game that you played? What was the first game?
Hmm. It might have been honestly, it might have been Pokemon for Game Boy Color, like Pokemon Red.
Pokemon, the gateway drug for
Hmm.
gamers. If you weren't doing what you do now, what do you think you'd be doing for a living? I'll ask you that follow-up question.
Hmm. I think it would definitely be something in not necessarily an EMT, but definitely something in the vein of helping people. Um, Whether that be volunteering at different places or um, I don't know, something with helping people, definitely. Like one of my favorite things in college was they had this introductory program that basically helped you meet a lot of the other new freshmen, and it was Habitat for Humanity. So I really like building things, obviously,
That's a
and so
great charity.
it was a great opportunity to get to build a lot of things by hand. I absolutely love that, to meet new people, and you're helping like build a house for someone.
For
So
people
maybe
who aren't familiar with Habitat for Humanity, volunteers go in and they'll build houses and that sort of thing for people who need assistance. They can't afford, to buy a house of their own. Maybe they, uh, like people who were victims of Katrina. Oh, I've been told not to call them victims, survivors of Katrina. Sorry. Yeah, I had a taxi driver in New Orleans who corrected me and said, don't call us victims. We're survivors. So, for whatever reason, people who need a place to live and Habitat for Humanity goes in and builds it. And sometimes if somebody is renovating their house, they'll donate, like if they're renovating a bathroom, they'll donate their bathroom and windows and mirrors. And Habitat for Humanity takes those things and like gives them a new life for a family that needs it. So that's an awesome charity. That's good. See, I feel bad because I would just, if I wasn't doing what I do, I'd just sit at home and watch Netflix and eat snacks. So thanks, Leo.
That sounds fun
like
too.
A bad person. Getting back into the career stuff, let's talk about some of the stuff that you use often or every day. Software, any kind of tools, like your PC. Like, do you have any kind of special processor that you recommend? Or, hey, if I was going to build or upgrade my computer tomorrow, these are the things that I would make sure that it had.
So to be honest, my number one used piece of software is definitely just Visual Studio Code, like a text editor, because I'm coding most of the time. In terms of hardware, I'm someone, I really, really like having a lot of screen real estate. I mean, when I first came to my first job, I had 2 screens and the laptop hooked up to them. And I've kind of spiraled out of control. And now I have, it's called the Samsung Odyssey G9. It's like a 55-inch widescreen monitor. It's basically just, it's like really wide and narrow. So it's basically like if you had 3 big monitors kind of just as one that kind of wraps around you. And that's by far my favorite thing. Kind of feels like you're in a command center at all times.
Yeah, mine's the same way, but I like it because you can have, I've got Discord, I've got Slack, I've got YouTube, I've got all the things up at the same time, and you don't have to have 2 or 3 monitors like you used to. So yeah, live in large.
Honestly, sometimes there'll be a window up in the corner and I'll forget that I've had it open because the screen is so big.
What advice would you give to someone who's interested in doing what you do? Like for a high school student, you said you knew, before you even finished high school, you had a really good idea what you wanted to do. So what are some classes that like a high school kid might want to take? And then in college, what are some classes that people take? Were there any classes that you took that it surprised you that it helps you now?
So
maybe a history class or whatever.
I can talk about the classes. I can also talk about other things that you can do that are really helpful. But in terms of the classes, surprisingly, I mean, obviously it's really important to get your fundamentals like computer science 1, computer science 2, just kind of learning the basics of what programming is and how it works. But the classes that honestly helped me the most, there was this class I had in my junior year, Game Development 2, which basically was just a series of different projects where we got paired up as, like for the whole semester, I think there were 4 or 5 different projects we had. And each time we were paired up randomly with a group of people from different disciplines. So me, I would be the engineer, and we'd get paired with someone that was concentrated in the visual arts kind of territory, paired with a project manager, and then paired with an audio designer. And so we'd have someone from each different discipline together that we might have never met before. And then we'd have to kind of ideate, plan, design, and build a game in a period of like 3 to 4 weeks. And just doing that over and over again gave me such great exposure to not only learning how to work with people from different disciplines that might have kind of different ways of looking at things, but you just get a really good sense of what it takes to kind of take an idea and then see it to the finish line and actually have something to show at the end, which is really, really important. In terms of other things you can do, so Discord is actually a really, really great place to find various communities relating to crypto. And honestly, if you go to any one of the, I think pretty much every project Discord I've been a part of has a channel dedicated to either introducing yourself or kind of just stating what you're trying to do and how you want to contribute. So if you just join a bunch of Discords for things that not necessarily even are the exact thing you want to work on, but then go into the chat to introduce yourself and just say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I don't really have much experience in this area, but I'm very eager to learn, and I want to figure out how I can contribute. You'll be kind of accepted with open arms 9 times out of 10, and people will be very, very grateful and happy to help you try to figure out how to contribute. And then you start making some friends in these projects. You can start contributing in more and more meaningful ways, like maybe committing code, designing websites. And yeah, once you can start building a network through there, and it's kind of like a snowball effect.
Some engineers and programmers that I've met, through my career, have talked about game jams. So for somebody who isn't in school and doesn't have that opportunity, have you ever done a game jam or something similar? And do you think something like that would be helpful?
Yeah. So a game jam is, as far as I understand, I've done a lot of them, but it's basically just a hackathon for games. So game jams and hackathons are both really amazing ways to do that as well. And don't feel, for anyone that's not familiar, it's basically an event where you go, you might have a team already, or you might not have a team, and you kind of form these little groups, and there's usually a project theme. There's usually like different kind of prompts that you can base your work off, and you have a period of time, whether it be like 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, where you build something. You kind of build a project from scratch, and then they're all judged at the end. And sometimes there's prizes, sometimes there's not. But it's a really, really good way to kind of not only just build things and get your hands dirty, but to meet other people that also want to do that. I know a lot of friends that have started companies with people that they've met at game jams and hackathons. And the biggest thing I can say for that is, don't be afraid if you don't know anyone, or you don't have to have a team when you go. Just like bring yourself, bring what you know, bring what you want to learn, and you'll find a group of people that you can work with.
That's fantastic. That's really good advice. And where can people hear about these kinds of opportunities? Are there, is that another thing that you could hear about in Discord, or, are there websites or maybe some Twitter accounts that people should follow, Instagram, all the socials?
So some of the hackathons I participate in a lot are hosted by an organization called ETH Global, and they have hackathons all over the world that happen pretty regularly. Like there's one in San Francisco I'm competing in the beginning of November. So I think just
you're
Google
competing in. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's like Serena Williams showing up and beating some kids' asses at tennis camp. Don't you think?
No, there's a lot of incredibly smart people that go to these. But yeah, so ETH Global is a great one, specifically for crypto. In terms of gaming, I'm not too sure. Basically, if you just search for Game Jam, insert city name here, I guarantee you'll probably find some stuff.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great advice. Thank you. We have a question from the YouTube chat. Is there one standout idea or concept about Noor that aided in your decision to join the team?
Yeah, the main thing that kind of struck me and really inspired me to join was I don't know, the fact that we're building games to be fun first and foremost. We're not building games specifically so the game mechanics make money. We're building games because they're fun and that people want to play them. And that was the first time I've heard that, and so that's probably the main thing.
It sounds like kind of a given. Like, why would you set out to make a game and you don't care if it's fun? Believe me, folks, it happens. Because it's like, oh, WoW made so much money. Let's go make another WoW. Okay.
Yeah.
Just if it's not fun, nobody wants to play it. Coca-Cola, I use this example all the time for a lot of different reasons. Coke had all the money in the world, and they came out with new Coke, and it failed because it wasn't good. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, for that great quote. All right, I got no other questions for you. Is there something that you wanted to talk about, or before we sign off? I'm not just going to make you sit here. I know you're not feeling well and you probably need to go take a nap. But I also want to make sure that we covered everything that you wanted to talk about.
Nothing really. I guess one of my big hobbies also I didn't talk about is photography. And I have an Instagram with all of my travel photography. So if anyone's curious, feel free to look at that. I can
What
get the
is
link.
it? Where can they find you on Instagram?
It's the techie photographer, all one word, and techie is like TECHIE. That's where I post all the photographs I take when I travel. So if anyone's curious, it's they're not amazing. It's just kind of hobby stuff. But.
No, that's awesome, and people are interested in those sort of things. So you're not some kind of like secret TikTok star. Thank you. I don't understand TikTok. All right. Well, thank you. I wish you a speedy rest of your recovery. And
thank you.
I appreciate you. If you're watching this on YouTube, I hope that if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, that you will. Join us in our community Discord, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.